So today we've got Stefan Garlicki. He's a professional downhill rider from South Africa. Yes, he is growing in the sport, and I must say I'm a big fan of him representing South Africa on the international circuit. And yeah, let's hear what he has to say about his journey in cycling and some of the difficulties that he's faced. Thanks, Stefan.
Yeah, good to be here.
Thanks, man. All right, so first thing that I want to ask you is, how did you get into downhill riding, and when did you get into downhill riding?
So I started 2010 was my first year, and I'd actually done motocross when I was younger. I did motocross for 10 years, and sorry, I hope this is the bell distracting you.
It's you can hear it, yes, but
Let me just. Yeah, I've done motocross for 10 years, and then after that was like my childhood dream, and I just we didn't really have the budget to make that as a profession. I would have loved to, and then sort of gave up on that idea. And after school, did some traveling, went to the UK, met some guys over there that were doing 4-cross, actually, another form of mountain biking, and they said, yeah, I should come along to a race. And then one thing led to another, and started racing over there. And then when I came back to Cape Town end of that year, which was end of 2009, I sold my motocross bike and got my first downhill bike. And then it was, when I started, it was obviously just for fun. I was loving it. And then about 6 months later, I went to national champs, and then I got fit, and that was like kind of the turning point where I thought maybe I could take this a bit further, because I'd only been in such a short time, and that was sort of like, it was all downhill from there.
Excuse the pun. Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. So you only started really downhill riding in 2010, which is what, 10 years ago? 20 years.
Yeah.
So 10 years ago, that's after school, I'd assume.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, where you are today, that's quite for that amount of time, in my opinion, I'd say that's pretty good progression. So yeah, pretty glad for
Thanks.
All right, so I do know that last year you did have quite a bad crash in, I think, Leergang, Austria, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Maybe just speak us through that, what happened, and how you sort of coped with something that drastic in your life.
So I'll maybe take it back a little further, because so people get the full picture. But actually, in July of 2018, I broke my right hip in Germany. It was a really bad injury, and I didn't just break the hip, I shattered it. And they wanted to do a hip replacement, and I was off the bike for 9 months. And I was on crutches. I couldn't even walk for 4.5 of those months. So it was that was by far the biggest injury I'd ever had to deal with, and I seriously contemplated stopping at that point. Anyway, but like as time goes on, I think you sort of, your body's pretty good at forgetting the pain and forgetting like all the trauma and all that. And I kind of thought, okay, well, this is it now. Like I've done the big one, like it's behind me now, like I'll be good. And anyway, got back going, got back on a bike in January 2019, and then got back on a downhill bike in March. And then did a couple of races, did national champs at home and got third, and I was pretty happy with that, considering how little time I'd had on the bike. And then went over to Europe and did one event. Just did the Fort William World Cup, and then went over to Leergang. And just a total freak accident. Like my foot unclipped on the takeoff, the jump, and it's never happened to me before. And I still, to this day, don't really know why it happened. But just because it unclipped unexpectedly at that moment, it obviously throws your whole weight off. And I was trying to keep low on the jump, because I was going quite fast. I was doing a time run, and as I tried to compress the bike, the foot unclipped, which meant I couldn't actually keep it down. So instead of going down, I went up, and I just like preloaded and got ejected over the bars. And when I landed on my left side, and I knew immediately that my hip was dislocated on the left, and it was the opposite hip to the previous year. And I'd, well, in 2011, I dislocated my shoulder. So I had a pretty good idea of what a dislocation felt like. So the doctor or the medics and stuff there came to me and they asked me what was going on, and I said my hip's dislocated, and you could see they were kind of a little bit unsure. They're like, are you sure? Like, how do you know? And I was like, well, I've got some experience. I'm pretty sure this is dislocated. But then, yeah, I just couldn't believe that it had happened, because that this almost the same injury had happened. And I just didn't know if there was anything broken, but I knew that it was dislocated. So managed to get on to some pretty strong painkillers, got knocked out, then got choppered out to one hospital close by. They couldn't actually, they actually popped the hip back in when I was out, and then they put my leg in traction. So they put 2 bolts into my femur at the bottom to pull the leg down so that it doesn't pop out again, because the back of the hip socket was actually broken. And then I got flown by chopper again to Salzburg, and then I was in that hospital for 2 weeks when they did the open surgery, and I had to wait. It was a Friday, and I had to wait till Tuesday to do the surgery, because all the doctors were away for Easter weekend.
Oh, jeez.
So, or whatever it is, Easter weekend or some holiday weekend, they were away. So, it actually was fine. Like, I wasn't in any pain at that point, but I couldn't move because my leg was in traction. Because that was the only way to keep it in the socket. And then, yeah, after that, it actually didn't really get better, because I had also damaged my main nerve in the back of the leg, the sciatic nerve. And I got severe nerve pain in the next 2 months after I left the hospital, where literally I was getting up 5-6 times a night, standing in a freezing, like in ice water, to numb my whole leg, because the pain, it felt like I had a fire or something, I don't know, stabbing me in my foot. Even though the injury was in my hip, the pain referred down. And I really struggled with that. And then, then I got back home and managed to get on. Well, I went to a neurologist and I managed to get some medication that helped with the nerve pain, but it's not stuff to mess with. And I didn't really have a choice at the time. Like, I was so desperate, I needed something. And then when you come off the medication, it's so addictive, the medication, that I had like serious like withdrawal from coming off the medication, and I had to go like back on the medication, and I had like, it was really and that led to all sorts of things, not sleeping for like 2 months. Then I didn't sleep after that because the medication makes you sleepy, and then I came off, and now literally I was getting like 2 hours of sleep a night, and that it was like things just spiraled out of control. So it was only literally really the last couple of months that I've been like feeling not 100% yet, but I'm getting back to normal now. And I've obviously tried to I've tried to keep going and keep writing and keep sort of not saying too much on social media, but it's a lot of people didn't realize like how bad things got. But I think also because having 2 injuries back to back, even for your head, is way harder to deal with than just one, because you don't, like, you knock down the wall and then you start building back up, and then before you get back to where you were, it gets knocked down again, and then you get even deeper into a hole. But yeah, now I'm super happy to be writing, and yeah, I think it makes you appreciate life a lot more, and appreciate health, and like how important just being able to do daily things is. And when you can't go to the toilet or go and shower or whatever, it makes you realize that actually how many likes you got on a post on Instagram or something doesn't matter.
Yeah, for sure.
It definitely gives you a different perspective.
Jeez. Yeah, as you say, a lot of people don't see that perspective of your life. And I mean, I was wondering now as you were talking, sort of, you say it was like a massive psychological thing for you, and I can imagine that. And I was wondering, what was the driving factor? Was it pressure from sponsors? Was it pressure from your family? Was it pressure from yourself that actually pushed you to carry on cycling? I mean, you said that you wanted to stop. So what was it that actually, after both of these crashes, I think the normal person would go like, geez, that was something that I don't want to experience again. You know what I'm saying?
You know, it's a tough. I've asked myself the same question at times, and it's a tough one to answer. I think the biggest thing for me is I really love riding. Like, and at no point did I ever think that I wouldn't ride again, like that I would stop riding. The only question was whether I wanted to keep racing at the level that I'm at, or was at, and trying to get back to. So that's the kind of that was the main thing. And for me, 2017, before all this happened, was my best season ever. And I'd almost broken into the top 20 in the World Cups. And that was like, I really felt like I was finally getting to where I believed I could be. And then when all this happened, I felt like I hadn't done what I believed I could. And what I felt realistically that I could achieve. And I didn't feel like I'd peaked yet. And that just, to me, if I'd stopped, that would have been something I always regretted if I didn't give it another go. And then it was also like to myself, like I wanted to also prove to myself that I could overcome this, and like mentally and physically, and get back to where I was. And I don't know. Some people might think it's I don't know, either crazy or stupid or whatever, but I don't know. Like it's a sort of, I don't know, it's something in you, and I think you either you have this feeling like I want to do this or I don't. And for sure, at times I think it's quite normal. At times you think maybe this is a good time to hang it up, but then there's just, if I look at my career as a whole, there's been way more positive than the negative. And even though these two injuries were really bad, and I definitely don't want to go through anything like that again, I still think I still wouldn't change it, because I wouldn't say, oh, I wish I didn't do mountain biking because of these injuries. Like, the lifestyle that I've been able to have and travel, and like I met so many good people. I met my girlfriend. Like, I've managed to create friendships and connections, business connections, things all over the world. And it's just, I don't know. I think it's an addiction, I think, to an extent. I don't know how long I will race at the level I'm at now, or like trying to get back to, but I definitely won't stop riding. If I can help it, I'll always ride. So it's I guess a complicated answer, but I just think it's something that's either in you or it's not.
Yeah, and I think your love for the sport is sort of like the catalyst in what carries you through.
Yeah.
I think that's a very important aspect for a professional in especially sports. I mean, I don't know, I can't say personally, but why else would a professional athlete be a professional athlete if it's not for personal gain? You know what I'm saying? It's like out there are so many more jobs that can get you more money, more fame.
Exactly.
But
I definitely feel like before, in a way, there's definitely been positives that's come out of this. Because I appreciate riding now way more than I did before. Because like even in 2017, when everything was going so well, it was great, but you take it for granted, because everything's just like rolling, like results are good, like everything's kind of just how you expect it. And you just like the training and all that, it becomes like a job almost, because you just like, okay, I've got to go and do intervals now, I've got to go do laps, I've got to go do this. But I don't know, to me, I kind of lost the joy a little bit. And then when you suddenly can't ride for almost a year, it just changes your perspective. And now like I love riding, like, and I definitely, instead of always doing something focused, like I found now I want to ride. I always include like having some time to just have some fun and just mess about, like just go and ride with friends or, you know, things like that, because this whole thing showed me how quickly it can end. And I didn't want to, I thought, what's the point? If you don't enjoy it, then there's no point doing it. There's a lot of other ways, as you said, that you can make more money and have a safer lifestyle. So you need to enjoy it while you can. And even though, yeah, I mean, obviously you need to train, you need to take it seriously, but at the same time, you also need to have fun with it and make the most of it while you can.
Yeah. It's awesome to see that. That's sort of like, because I suppose you don't really see that on social media. You know, when the youngsters, the youth, they look at athletes on social media, on Instagram, YouTube, these movies made on them, and they think it's just a world of like racing bikes and, you know, making money. But I think from a perspective of an athlete like you, as you've sort of summarized, it's more about the love of the sport for the athlete than the money. And I think that's awesome to see that.
I mean,
insider.
I feel I've had so many people ask me on whatever on social media, and then they'll say like, how do I get sponsors, and how do I get this, and how do I get that? And I'll tell them, I said, well, you got to ask yourself, are you doing this for the right reasons? Like, obviously if you want to be a professional at anything, you need sponsors. It's just the nature of life. You need a certain amount of money to be able to do the sport and to survive. And I feel like if you're good at something, the money will come. But the money can't be the main goal, and the sponsors can't be the main goal, because you'll never achieve what you need to achieve then to actually get there. And it needs to come from the desire to actually want to be better, want to either be, even if you don't want to race, even if you want to be a social media influencer or whatever, you need to be focused on the riding and getting better as a rider, or getting better results, or, you know, enjoying the sport. And then for sure you can branch out and when you're getting good enough, you can start looking for sponsors and stuff. But that can't be the main goal, because then it's completely the wrong reasons. You're never gonna get where you need to get to.
Yeah, you'll sort of never reach the level that you expected. I think that's
and I think a lot of these kids, they now, it was different when I started, because Instagram and stuff wasn't around. But now people look on Instagram and stuff, and they just see the good stuff, and they just like the guy standing on the podium and like doing rad riding shots and things, and they don't see what goes in, and like the years of work that goes in behind the scenes, and not just with the actual riding and practicing and training, but also the dealing with when you've got to deal with media and just contracts and like all these like other things, which admin things, and emails and travel bookings, and there's so many things that come up, which at one point I can say, like in 2017, there was like 6 months in the off season where I literally rode my bike like once a week, because I was so I'd lost my main sponsor, and I was trying so desperately to find a new sponsor for the next year. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to go and race. And completely took the fun out of it. And but these kids don't see that. They just see like you got on the pit, they see the podium or whatever, and that's what they think. You just ride your bike all day and that's it. But there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, for sure. It's just like the tip of the iceberg is what what athletes and stuff actually show.
Yeah. And I definitely, I'm glad that I chose this route, but I think people and kids and stuff that want to do this should get a better perspective of what actually is involved in being a professional racer, because there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say perspective, because that's all it is, for the person sitting behind the phone. Like for instance, me looking at an influencer or athlete, it's a different perspective to the person who's posting. And I like to put it as perspective. That's the right term to use.
And also with the whole posting thing is, everyone always posts positive stuff, because you don't want to be flooding people with negativity. So everyone thinks that everyone's life is perfect, And the reality is, like, none of our lives are perfect. Like, everyone's got problems. That's just how it is. But on social media, it's just like, oh, this guy's riding there, he's riding there. Look at this, he won this race. Like, he's got like the best golf. He's got like everything's like perfect. And in reality, in most cases, it's not like that. So
no, I like that. Super, super relatable, to be honest with you. And I think once people start to, or the youth start to realize that there's a lot more hard work into becoming that professional, I know it'll build a better society, in my opinion. But
No,
so the one thing that I did say that I would ask you, you've already given a lot of advice, but if you could pass on one piece of advice that you've learned in your career to future, I'd just say athletes, because let's not make it downhill riders specifically, but let's say athletes. What would that piece of advice be?
I think, well, it's a difficult question to answer as one thing, but I think the main thing is keep your focus on what you want to do on the sport itself, and make sure that you actually enjoy the process, because in most cases there's probably going to be a lot more hard times than good times. It's a lot more hard work to get to that podium or to get to that win or whatever than the actual time on that day. It's a very short-lived moment, and if that's the only thing that's going to make you happy, then you're going to spend a lot of time being unhappy. So you need to actually enjoy the process and enjoy your sport and make the most of it, and try not to take it for granted, because when you're doing it full time, it's quite easy to do that. And I know personally how easy it is. So I think just try and make the most out of it and enjoy the whole process of getting there.
Sort of fall in love with the sport and not with the perceived expectation of what the sport will become.
Exactly. And you have to set goals, but don't place all your happiness on, don't focus it all on one goal, because then if you don't reach it, then or even if you do reach it, it's short-lived, and then what next? Then you enjoy something else. You need to find there needs to be something that's consistent that you can enjoy. So if your focus is, I love riding and I love playing soccer or whatever, and just enjoy it, and obviously then the rest will come. If you enjoy it, generally you get better at it, and then the sponsors come, the money comes, everything else follows.
That's well, thank you so much. I think that's it. I don't want to take any more of your time. Very interesting talking to you, I must say it. Thank you so much.
No worries. Glad to maybe give somebody some advice, and hopefully we'll see more of this podcast soon.
Thank you. I'd love to have you on maybe at a later stage, when racing is back to normal.
Cool. Sounds good.
Anyway, cool. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And hope to see you riding your bike in an actual race soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Glad to be on.